Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 370, recorded live on Sunday, February 15th. I'm your host, Patrick. This week's screenshot, Wunden travels stealthily through the giant hole in the 209th screenshot of the week. Nice little shot of the statues. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Google Plus Hangouts, YouTube, the DDO forums, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be Saturday evening. Looks like I have Saba J lined up for her first foray into DDOCast. Might have some other guests as well. Just kind of looking into that still. On the podcast this week, we have DDO Debates, our second round of that. We're going to be looking at adventure packs. So we're going to introduce our panel of guests. First, we have Ecgric. He was the producer of premium perspective segments on DDOcast. He's been a reoccurring guest on DDOcast. He gave in to the VIP temptation about a year ago, and he's got a slick arcade emulator in the background there. It's Ecgric.
Hi, everyone. Good to be back.
Welcome, sir. Our second guest, Bonnie Bew. It's her first time on DDOcast. She's been a guest on Cocktail Hour and Damsels of DDO. She twitches regularly, including Shroudapalooza on the official DDO Unlimited Twitch feed, and she was formerly an owlbear conservationist. Say hello, Bonnie.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm going to try to keep to complete sentences tonight for ease of understanding.
Our last guest, he was on the 2014 Players Council and leads the Galanda Rerolled Guild, which won our first guild feud a while back. There's only one difficulty for him, Elite, and if you ask him, he will tell you it's not Red Alert, or if it's not Red Alert, you aren't zerging hard enough yet. Say hello to Ash.
Hey, guys.
All right, guys, welcome. Just to give everyone a brief overview, each guest will be given an opportunity to give an opening argument in a rotating order. We want arguments to be creative, passionate, amusing, and factual, but they shouldn't be mean. Counterpoints are encouraged, and interruptions are allowed at my discretion. And we'll give each winner, or the winner of each round will get 1,000 XP, and we'll total up the XP at the end and see who wins. We shouldn't have to have a troll for any of these because I've already looked at all the questions and the answers and got a pretty nice variety, so I'm pretty stoked about this. So we're going to get started, and the first question that we have today is, which is the best adventure pack? And we are going to start this round with Ecgric.
Okay. Well, for me, I feel that the best adventure pack is Ruins of Gianthold. For the level, you get some great XP out there. I think there's a lot of fun quests to it. I do a lot of soloing, and I found that most of those quests can be soloed. There's a couple that it's impossible to, but possibly with a hireling or a pet, you might be able to. Let's see, and I think one of the best things about it is it's a nice adventure pack to be able to get an extra 20 spots off your backpack, because you can very easily get 75 favor from Arganessen, and when you do that, you combine that with the 150 favor from the Coin Lords and 1,000 platinum pieces, and there you go. You can get the collapsed boardable hold and turn it into 20 backpack spaces.
All right. Bonnie, your turn.
Well, I guess first I wanted to talk about how I came upon my answer, because I decided that the best pack wasn't my favorite pack. I was going to look at whether or not there was a saga available, what levels of content were covered by the quest in the pack, whether it was like heroic and epic, or epic only, or heroic only, the originality of the artwork, how much the pack added to the total world building of Dungeons & Dragons Online, whether or not the loot was something I actually used, and I only considered content that was currently in game, not stuff that was planned and out in the future, or want to have kind of stuff. And so with this, I came up with 3 frontrunners, and Gianthold was one of them, but it wasn't the pack that I picked. The pack I picked was Necro 4, because I think the Orchard of the Macabre is just beautiful, gloomy splendor. It has some of my favorite stories in Eberron. It has loot that I used as a heroic character and at Epic Endgame. It gives out XP hand over fist. It has innovative quest design, such as like the Abbot Raid and the multi-dimensional Inferno of the Damned, and just Litany. I love Litany of the Damned. It can also be kind of challenging, but it's the kind of challenging that I find fun. On Heroics more so than Epic. Epic is much easier, I think, if you scale all things considered. Epic has some of the most challenging elements dumbed down. But like 2 words, air elementals. I mean, handling the air elementals in Heroic and doing Fleshmaker's Laboratory is much more fun, much more challenging than doing it on Epic. Still, I love the Ghost of Perdition and Inferno and Litany with a good group, and you never forget your first time in Goggles. Gnosis of the Silver Star led the first Goggles that I ever participated in, and that was like 5 years ago, and I still remember.
Did you get through it?
Yes. I was freaking out the entire time, because I feel like it's a high pressure situation, but I made it through. And about the only things I would change about Necro 4 that would make it better would be like if the heroic raid flagging sigil wasn't consumed, but like persisted like Twilight Forge's sigil does, because you get to reuse that one. You only have to flag it once your entire life. And maybe like if Bootsy Collins did the voice of Cholthuz, that would be pretty cool. But otherwise, I love the entire pack as it is.
All right, and Ash, close us up here.
So I have to say, Giant Hold's a great pack. I enjoy it. Necro 4 was my runner-up. I think the Heroic Abbot raid is still my favorite raid and favorite content of all time. However, I went with the Devils of Shavarath. Reason being, it was kind of more of a nostalgia for a time when DDO was actually hard. When that first came out, you had to have good groups, ready to go, geared out, and even then still you had some problems with it. Something that, with the recent changes, we just don't have anymore. So what drew me back to Devils was that. Also, it's real content. Not real from that standpoint, real from the kind of monsters you're fighting. I mean, heck, you're fighting demons and devils, and there's an angel, mad angel in the trapped in a prison. That's, upper level D&D content. Not rats, not little zombies running around, not spiders that have more hit points and higher saves than anything else in the game. But you're really fighting. You feel like you're fighting epic content. And this is even before Epic really first came out. The quests were all unique. The design was very well done. Some mazes you had to actually work together and kind of stay together for. And it was capped off by a really fun raid that leveraged Vale and the storyline that started there, which was probably some of the most popular content that's out there. So
I have to say, I'm marginally surprised that nobody actually picked the Vale pack for this, because I was expecting that. But they're all 3 really good choices. What I want to do here is let's kind of go back around. Tell me why your pack is better than the other packs that they selected. Anyone can jump in.
I'll jump in. I mean, I think, with Giant Hold, I didn't pick Giant Hold because of the levels that it hit and how much I actually found a lot of use for the gear nowadays. Before the I think the expansion came out, and before Necro 4, there were some in-game pieces with Giant Hold, and then of course there's the Saga. That was a big advantage, that you have a replayable Saga that you can use both on Heroic and Epic for that extra XP goodness. But I get so bored doing Giant Hold. I mean, I TR a lot, and sometimes I literally do other quests just so I don't have to do Giant Hold again. And I just couldn't put it at the top there because sometimes it gets to be really boring. As for the Devils, everything that Ash said about Devils is true. It does have this nostalgic feel to doing it. I kind of discounted it because of its current relevancy and that there's no epic version of it in the game yet. But still, my guildies and we do Tower of Despair regularly just because of that nostalgic feel, that it's a fun raid to do. And there's nothing quite like it. It's just that I don't think it's really super relevant to my gameplay right now. I just do it because of nostalgia.
Anyone else want to jump in?
Sure, I'll jump in next. Oh, sorry. Eric, I was going to say, actually can't disagree at all with Hibani on the not as relevant right now. But that's kind of why I still put it as a best. it harkened back when teamwork was paramount, when things were challenging. And for me, I look at it as a hope for the future. Like I said, Necro 4 is my runner-up, so I can't really bash on that too much.
Oh, yes, you can.
But I will say that the first time you got to the end of New Invasion, you dropped down after fighting through the maze, and then you saw this end fight that if you didn't work together, move as one, you wiped right there. There isn't challenges like that in the game anymore. So to me, it harkens to a day gone by and a hope for the new future.
Ecgric?
Well, I have to kind of agree with Bonnie as to why Devils of Shabrath doesn't get up there as best, and a lot of it's got to do with the epic. You're pretty much limited to just doing it in heroic. Necro, I like Necro, but to me, whenever I'm running, for some reason I always look forward to running Giant Hold. I don't play a lot. I'm mostly a casual player, and therefore, when I do get to play, I have this tendency to stick to certain quests. Giant Hold, I tend to run every quest I possibly can every time I get around that level. I don't know that I mentioned earlier, I'm in the process of trying to work on a completionist, so I'm currently on like my third life for that guy. And Giant Hold is something I look forward to. Necro 4, it's nice running around the wilderness area there, and a lot of the gear is nice. I agree with that. However, for someone who has a tendency to do a lot more of heroic stuff, I find the Giant Hold gear to be a bit more useful for me.
I think I'm going to call this one in favor of Andy, and I'm going that way because I like what you were saying about like the challenge and what it represented at the time, and it being really challenging. Whereas the other packs, I don't think Orchard really fit that very well, at least certainly for the epic content, and similar things with the Giant Hold. But I really like what you said about the hope it kind of represented when it came out, and just kind of how it brought a new life to the game when it came out, and they really knocked that out of the park when it did come out. I know it's not as relevant now, but I think if you look at like when it came out and all that stuff, I'm leaning in that direction. So, good arguments, everybody. That was a really solid round. Now we'll take that to the flip side for round 2. What is the worst adventure pack? And this time we start with Bonnie.
So this one was kind of hard because you look at any adventure pack and there's usually at least one thing that I like, or that has some good quality about it. So I had a problem finding a pack where I hated everything about it, and even the most boring pack for me, which is Druid's Derp, because it's just, oh my god, boring. But it has a decent shield like the Wall of Wood, and it has sagas associated with it and stuff. So it has some good points, even though it's boring for me to do personally. And I'm not super into all the Madness packs, but there's still things like Sane Asylum or Missing that I tend to do every time I TR. So I couldn't completely diss any of those packs, and so then I started looking just down a list of packs, and I thought about, well, what do I just never do anymore? It's not bad, it's not boring, it doesn't make me want to choke coil, it has nothing like that wrong with it. I just haven't found a reason to really run it for 3 years. And that insignificance and lack of passion in my DDO gameplay for the adventure pack just seemed kind of damning. And so my worst adventure pack is Reaver's Reach. It used to be an experience go-to. It's like maybe one of those nostalgic kind of things where I used to go to it all the time, but since Update 13, it's kind of like a vestigial tale or an appendix of adventure packs. You can totally live without it. The Dragon Touch armor crafting system was an inventory nightmare. There was maybe a handful of interesting effects you could get on your Dragon Touched armor, but the farming and the crunching and the tomfoolery you had to go through to get the right rune might have been worth it before Cannith Crafting came to pass, but Cannith Crafting pretty much surpassed it in terms of flexibility and utility, if not inventory management. I mean, it has good quests in it. But, things like Stealers of Souls were fun to play as a capstone quest, but those 3 gems you had to get together and the essences you had to have for every run to do it, it's just like, no thank you. It's not anything that I'm interested in doing very much. At that level, I typically just want to run Wailing Prison or the Stormhorns.
You still need all 3 of those, don't you?
Yeah.
If you want to rerun it. Yeah.
Like 3 gems, but then you have to get each essence to rerun it.
Yeah. Well, there's the 6 that started with 6 gems. I think then I said 3.
Yeah.
But you still have to get the 3 essences every time you run it.
Yeah.
Which can be kind of a trick. All right, Ash, your turn.
I had to reach deep because I was going through the list of all the adventure packs, and I was finding something good in almost all of them. And but it harkened back. We just recently did a Guild Renowned competition internally, so there was a lot of Saga running. So I got a chance to actually run quests I haven't ran in a long time. And the ones that stood out in that was the Disciples of Shadow. Now, to remind people, it was the update that came out right before Shadowfell. Had 3 quests in it. All of them were somewhat linear, not very interesting, which really sucked for me because the Netherese are like my favorite bad guys in all of D&D. I've loved them since they first got mentioned in a Dragon Magazine article in the late 80s. And then my first taste of Netherese and DDO was these really cheesy and boring quests. I mean, I get that it's mostly free to play, so it's kind of hard to say there wasn't value there, but it just felt like a completely wasted update. The loot, for the most part, wasn't that good. There was an Ioun Stone that was okay, but it wasn't anything special. And like I said, for me personally, it came down to you took one of the best bad guys out there and made him comical. And it really ruined it for me.
All right, Ecgric?
Well, I was kind of in the same situation with everyone. It's a matter of what really qualifies as being worse. I had to think about, what do I not run and why do I not run these things. I think I turned out coming up with, for me, Necro 3. Really, Necropolis Part 3, it actually kind of all of Necro 1, 2, and 3. I generally don't run those too much. And Necro Part 3 I almost totally avoid. I don't think anybody could argue that Tomb of the Tormented is just an absolutely horrible quest to have to do. It's such a pain. I think the joke that goes around is the players are actually the ones that are being tormented.
I was going to say, it may actually be the most aptly named quest.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I've probably had at least half the time when I have run that quest, the rats end up bugging out somehow. They get stuck, you can't get them to move anymore, and it's just, to me, that just totally ruins that quest. And then you also got in Necro Part 3 is you've got Tomb of the Blighted. I mean, yeah, it's not a bad quest, but I find it annoying constantly dealing with the Blight Rot. Yeah, and I found that with Necro 3, there's really no loot that's worth running it for. So that's really what I came up with was Necro 3. I think that one's probably the worst if I have to label one that way.
I'm going to be slightly biased here, and partly because of time, and I already know my answer. Necro 3, I think I got to go with Necro 3. I like the arguments that the other guys gave, but I think Ecgric keying in on key mechanics of 2 of the quests that are either really annoying or don't work. Even though I actually kind of like Tomb of the Tormented.
Oh, I actually love those quests.
I totally.
Necro 3 is my nostalgia pick.
A lot of the player base just really hates Tomb. Like, you don't ever see anybody run that. Even like at level going through, and there's other stuff in the same area, but man, Tomb of the Tormented doesn't work half the time, and I hate Blighted personally. But I'm gonna pick that one. I'm trying not to be too biased, but I think that's at least for me.
I don't mind winning by bias.
Our next question, change it up a little bit. What is the most difficult adventure pack at level? I think someone was mentioning like at the time of release as well. And this time we start with Andy.
I think I made my arguments already on my best pack, but it's back to Devils. At time of release, at level, which meant you were level 20, not 21, no Epic, no Destinies. The Amarath content would be the most difficult at time of release. I wouldn't say it's the case now, because people are running at level 21 with Destinies and God mode turned on practically. But at the time of release, with the gear we had, the abilities we had, it definitely raised the bar in difficulty.
Ecgric?
Sorry there. Okay. Well, for me, I've really got to go with the Path of Inspiration. Keep in mind, I'm coming from the opinion here of someone who spends a lot of time soloing. And I think I Dream of Jeets is the only quest in that whole adventure pack that I've ever managed to actually solo through. Any other quest I cannot manage to get through on solo. And even in a group, most of them I have a tendency to die at some point. Yeah. That's really about the only way I can put that.
Bonnie, your turn.
I chose Necro 4, and mainly because of Abbot Ascension, or the Ascension Chamber. That was basically the trump card that put it ahead of anything else that I could consider, because I think even now, years and years after it's come out, there are a lot of people who struggle with getting through that raid, especially at level, like if they're doing a heroic elite version of it. And so I think that's pretty much the toughest thing for people to learn, to grasp, and to master. And a shout out to Voodoo Spice of the High Lords of Malkier, because he does those training runs on Sarlona. Props to him, because I couldn't train anybody how to do goggles. I don't think I could. But so I just think far and above, that one raid makes Necro 4 harder.
Okay, so this is I'm going to try and keep some of these short because I have a lot of questions for this one. So, Ecgric, I like what you're saying about solo, but I'm going to knock you out of this one. So you get to help me judge between the other two. So,
Okay.
Andy,
Patrick, I'll make it easy for you. I think Bonnie made a better argument. People still feel Epic even at 28. And Epic Elite mod is the most difficult thing out there right now. So I'll bow out as well for it.
I was kind of leaning that direction, but I did like, Devils has some, here's the thing where I was kind of getting hung up on it, because Devils has, I think, a lot harder quests. If you look at the raids, Tower of Despair was tough, but certainly Abbott and Mark of Death are tougher. But if you look at the quests, I think the Devils of Shivroth quests were a lot tougher, particularly when they updated weapon shipment so that it had the higher spawn rates. New Invasion can kick even 28 tunes butts just in that end fight. Yeah, so we'll call that for Bonnie, which means we are tied. Everyone has one win so far.
Heroic Abbott wasn't even beat for a long time due to all the bugs. So it's added difficulty.
I was trying to stay away from that. I was trying to
come
stay away from that. But anyways, so our next question is, what adventure pack has the best value for what you're buying? And we're going to start with Ecgric.
Well, for best value, I'm back to the same adventure pack that I said was the best adventure pack. And I actually saved a few of my reasons off of that one. I mean, yes, it is one of the most expensive. However, if you look over everything, it's among the highest favor if you're just looking at total favor. It is among the most XP that you can get for the level, and you can include sagas and wilderness in that as well. The quests are relatively easy. I'm not saying they're like, breeze through them, but compared to some other quests, they are easier to run. You do have both heroic and epic, and to me, best value, one of the things, the first thing that came to my mind was it has to have both heroic and epic support. If it doesn't, then it's automatically knocked out of best value. As I said, it's got a wilderness area, and then the fact that you can get an upgrade to your inventory, I think that adds a lot of value to it as well. Because if you take a look at it, it's 950 turbine points for the pack, but then when you consider just one character inventory upgrade is 595 turbine points.
Okay, Bonnie?
I might have cheated a little bit because I said the Necro Bundle, which is actually a pack of packs. So it's Necro 1 through 4.
I'll allow it.
Okay. Because I crunched numbers, and that's like 24 quests and 2 raids for 1,495 turbine points. So that's basically, if you're just counting the quest, that's like 62 turbine points a quest. And it covers a range of material from level 5 to level 28. So it may not have like an associated saga, but it has all kinds of gear. It has a lot of heroic staples. It can get you silver flame pots, that kind of stuff. So I think it's big bang for the buck.
Andy?
I went with Vale. You get 2 wilderness areas, 3 raids, 4 quests, green steel crafting, which if you're doing a lot of heroic stuff or even low-level epics, it's some of the best weapons out there, and great flexibility in the items. It's one of those packs when I had friends start playing the game, they said, what should I buy first? I said, well, this one you have to buy. Anything else that's out there, I mean, it's good, it's bad, it's whatever. You can get around it. But if you didn't have the Vale, you were gimping yourself from the get-go. And I don't think it doesn't have an epic version yet, but we'll see how that goes. And to be fair, it was the first pack that was epicified. It just never got released that way a number of years ago. So there's a lot going for it. But 2 wilderness areas, 3 raids, and hands down the best crafting system out there. All for the low price of 800 points.
Oh man, this is a tough one. Do you know how much the giant hold costs, Ecgric, off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's 950.
Oh man. Others say you three are seem to be less energetic and passionate than the last set, but your arguments are really solid.
Oh, just wait.
Well, hey, I can say nothing bad about the Vale, and really at this moment in time, that if anybody's going to buy like one pack that they must buy like in the next few months, and they don't own it, they need to have the Vale before it goes epic and it costs more.
Yeah, they'll raise the price, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it was my backup pick, so there's nothing wrong with Vale. Love it.
Okay, these are all really good arguments. I'm gonna go with Bonnie, and the reason I'm doing that is I like what you're saying about the level range, because it'll treat you well if you can stand the quest. It treats you well at a lot of different levels. So, oh man.
If fighting undead makes you cry, though, it is not the bundle for you.
Yeah, the Silver Flame Favor is a really nice one. The other arguments were fantastic, and these are. I mean, really, if you're looking for three adventure packs to get to really hold you over in terms of content, here's your 3, because you put all these together, you pretty much get from level 5 to epic, even farther with Giant Hold and Orchard. So you got three options there that are really good. Congratulations, Bonnie. That very well argued. Just a little bit more because you give the level range. I think really kind of puts it over the top for me.
But I still love the Vale.
Yeah, the other two are fantastic, and that was close. I considered flipping a coin. That was a tough one. Our next one. What adventure pack is the most creatively designed? And we will start with on this one. What is it? Bonnie's turn.
My favorite aesthetically is House P Carnival. Party Crashers alone is amazingly beautiful. It's just gorgeous. It fundamentally represents its house, and it brings together a who's who of Stormreach, so it has a lot of continuity just going on in that one quest. And it has like a realistic quest progression where your actions, the options that you choose to do during the course of the quest can like easily shape the end fight and make it a funny story kind of. So it's got some quirky storytelling to it. a small problem is an escort quest, which, okay, yeah, that's kind of sucks, but it has fabulous dialogue, and it's very creative in terms of building the character of Braun Pitts. And then, of course, the Snitch. I mean, who doesn't love a halfling adventurer who's gotten in over his head? Roderick is great. He's hilarious. And I think that's a nice little quest, and it's fun to run through. And then lastly, the big top. It's like House P Horror Story. It's got a winding trail of devilish delights and feats of strength and circus acts. I mean, the pack has style from start to finish, so it's the most creative for me.
All right, Andy?
I went, and this is where I use my little bit of adding to the question, but I took 2 packs that work together, and that's Reign of Madness and Harbinger of Madness. Whoever was designing those quests was on something, and I wanted them to share. They were just well done. I mean, you have the fashion show. When I first saw that, I couldn't believe myself. You got, flying bed frames. You got getting into the mind of an illithid. Tiles that move the first time. I mean, I'm not great at some of those tile puzzles, and when they started moving on me on top of it, the words spouted at my keyboard, at my screen, would make paint curl, I think. But just overall, both packs together were extraordinarily well done. It helped bring the feeling of Zoriat really to my computer monitor. So props to whoever the concept designer was at the time who did those.
I think I know Purple Foods had a big part of at least those. Ecgric.
Well, let me start off with saying, for me, actually, my choice plus Harbinger, Reign of Madness was kind of tight, and then Failing Carnival were all like my top 3. It was tough to break it down here, but I ended up deciding on Wayland. I think the idea, and I don't know, maybe part of it for me is I used to always like the movie Escape from New York. Reminded me of that a little bit first. I like the idea that they put in here of being a prison city. There's a lot in the city that goes on while you're wandering around. They've got the random encounters I thought was great. Some of the quests are really nice. You do have one example with A Lesson in Deception. You do have choices as you're going through that have consequences in regards to the end. You can get some more experience on the one hand by helping people while you're going through the quest, or you can get to the end and get more experience. You got to make your choices, and you got to live with those choices. And the idea with Through a Mirror Darkly, when they had it where you're shifting back and forth, you're between 2 planes, I thought that was an amazing concept when they introduced that into the game. And then, Wayloon is also when you had the shadows coming in. I thought that was great where they changed to the shadows that pop up and slide along the ground. I just thought that was a very creative new thing that they did in the game.
I think I'm going to call this one for Andy, because those quests are just crazy.
I don't like the way that kitchen key is looking at me.
Yeah.
Everything from the dialogue to the theme, which you're right, I think really does capture Zoriat very well. It's just crazy, and I like we said about the moving tiles too.
Yeah.
So we'll give that one to Andy, which means our next one, and we will start with Ecgric for this. Besides the Vale, which we know is already going to become epic, what adventure pack should become epic next?
Well, I would like to see Sorrow Dusk Isle done. It's a quest, or it's an adventure pack that I've always liked, and I've always thought, what would happen if Bishop Zatsaroth, whatever, the bishop at the end that you kill, what would happen if someone decided to step up and replace him, or maybe he had an apprentice or somebody that came along and decided to take over his work or continue his work. this could be something where epifying it could involve continuing the story, not just adding harder difficulties.
Bonnie.
Well, if I have to pick one, I say Restless Isles because pew epic lasers! Yay! I mean, I love Twilight Forge. That's one of my favorite raids, period. And nobody ever runs it and everything. But if it was epic, I have high hopes that, like, just maybe, people would run it and I would get to shoot lasers to my heart's content. But, I mean, I'm going to put, like, a little kind of bud clause there that I'd rather see new content in Eberron or, like, another classic D&D module that's epic level. Like, give Searing Heights some more freaking quests. That's probably better. But if I have to use an existing, I say Restless Isles.
All right. Andy?
None. We need more content. The epifying thing worked well. It bought us some time to get some content up there, but we don't need to run the same quests over and over again, just rehash with bigger, higher hit points and CRs. There's a lot of great storylines that are existing. Amarath, the IQ, Dreaming Dark stuff, House C, those are all areas we can expand into new content, new quests, new stories. But I'm a little bit sick and tired of running the same quests that I already ran in heroic levels over again with the same stories, the same cast of monsters, the same dungeon at Epic. So I'm gonna say none of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of houses that are mentioned in quests, but aren't actually fully developed. We just have like a snapshot of the world, but it's not the full world. And it would be nice to see more pieces developed.
Yeah, but I will say shout out Twilight Forge is fun.
You do.
Too, and Sorrow Dusk. The quests are interesting, but running up and down to the exact same quest back and forth just annoys me. It's the same problem I have with Tangle Root. It's like Groundhog Day.
Fair point.
Okay, fair point on that. I'd like to mention, though, I don't think I'd run Restless Isles even if it was epic.
What?
That's just me.
You don't want to save like save the miners on epic?
No.
Can you imagine Golafan on Epic? Epic Elite at level 30.
The trap corridors. Oh, so much fun.
It'd be kind of like Prove Your Worth, which I've run twice this week without a rogue.
No.
Yeah, that was painful. I'm going with Andy on this one. I think new content is always... Although I would say, though, that you can make an argument that, like, with the Epic Vale, it's going to be new content, just kind of an epic, because they're talking about redoing the quest. So.
Yeah, listen, that's new content. As long as they're doing new quests, but running a run blindfold, that's not good.
All right, and because I got my order wrong, we'll start with Andy on this one. What adventure pack is most likely to get you killed?
Necro 4. Reasonings. At heroic levels, heroic abbot, people still die in there. I still die in there, and I'm actually pretty good at that raid. And then at the epic levels, the Lich Avengers is all I got to say.
Yay!
Epic Elite Lich Avengers, I love them to death, but if you're not paying attention, and situational awareness isn't there, you suddenly see you're dead, and you're like, how'd I die? Oh, there's a Lich standing above me, and that's how I died.
It's really fun when they're champions, too.
Yes, so Necro 4.
Ecgric.
For me, Harbinger of Madness. I have yet to get through all the way through that. I mean, you get to the end quest of battle with Yalthun. I have never been able to survive that.
All right, Bonnie.
Personally.
I say Veil of Twilight because when you trust in the Shroud, you die.
Oh.
Automatic.
It's true.
100%.
All right, go around once more really fast. Why is your pack more deadly than the others? Anybody?
Because you die.
I will say that mine you die through your own from non-story focused actions. Otherwise, it's hard to argue with 100% likelihood of death.
Decoded murder.
Yeah.
Yalthun gets more deadly the less hit points he's got. That's all I can say.
All right, I'm gonna go with Bonnie on this one. It's a little bit cheesy since it always kills you, but it does kill you regardless of what you're doing. Although I think a close second, Andy, talking about the 2 habit raids, they kill you a lot. So pretty easy to get killed in there. All right, that is all of our adventure pack questions. However, we have a few other ones, and I'm getting a little bit of echo here. I think it might be from Ecgric. Hopefully we'll kind of crawl that in. Anyways, our next question, we kind of learned a little bit about what this might look like in the future with the Mysterious Remnants. However, what do we want to see as rewards for Mysterious Remnants? And we'll talk about what's actually they're looking at in a little bit. But we'll start with Bonnie. What do you want to see as rewards for Mysterious Remnants?
Augments, and I'm thinking healing amp, parrying, lacerating, in general, stuff that was redacted from the loot tables, aka during the Feather of Sun Purge. I want my low-level invisibility clickies back, and I'm going to try not to cry just thinking about it, because I really miss them. Though the invisibility clickies are great.
Andy?
Very similar to Bonnie. Augments, but augments you can't get anywhere else. I don't need a list of things I can get in Giant Hold. Give me the skill augments that you can't find. You have to find very difficultly in quests. Healing amp augments. How about a repair amp or a negative energy amp augment? Those don't exist. True seeing. Give me an artifact damage augment. So I'm not wearing the claw set yet at 28. Stuff that you can't get anywhere else. It should make me want to save them up, want to farm for them. Seeing high prices on Giant Hold loot or Giant Hold augments isn't that interesting to me. Even the cloaks. It's taking up a full slot, and there's actually quite a few good cloak options these days. So give me augments, give me something cool, and yes, please let's finish on ghost baining the loot.
Ecgric?
I'd like to see we trade for some named gear. Maybe add some new named gear, or possibly have it set up where you're able to trade these in for some named gear that already exists that maybe is difficult for you to get from certain quests.
I'm just going to point out that if anyone would have said lesser hearts of wood, you would have won. Period. Hands down. But since nobody did.
You know, I didn't think about lesser. I thought about other hearts, but I discounted them because you could have other sources. But lesser is a good point.
I suppose lesser plus ones, not just lessers. It's got to be enough to get rid of that iconic
or
level.
+3.
You could mix them up a little bit, like a little more for the other ones. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go with Andy because you're talking about augments that we don't have, which I kind of like that they're putting some of the augments easier for other stuff. But I think that's got to be kind of a thing there. Stuff that we don't have, so that you actually want to go for it. I think that's a good point. So we've got, as it stands right now, Ecgric with 1,000 experience, Bonnie with 3,000, and Ash with 4,000 experience. And I think Andy, it might be you that's kind of getting echo, just so you know. Let's see. So with that, we still have a few more questions. The next question, and this came from a listener: should DDO store rogues be able to disarm the toughest traps? And I think this time we are starting with Andy.
So my view on this is not all of the traps, but at least 95% of them. Reasoning: I'm okay with having a few traps that are skill-based, that you have to have really high skills to take care of, and those should be player-focused only. But if I'm going to drop some turban points to find a secret door or to disarm something, there's nothing more annoying than dropping the points and having the rogue not be able to do it. And that happens way too often right now. So not the toughest traps, but everything but. And it should be any trap that's critical for, not critical, but good for continuing on the quest, looking at secret doors and haunted halls and stuff like that.
Ecgric.
Okay. Actually, first, let me state that I misread that. Didn't realize it was specifically DDO store. Didn't think about rogues are only DDO store. Good point, Andy. Or if you're gonna be putting turbine points in, that yes, makes sense. You should be able to get some. I don't think they should be able to get all of them. I am going to stick with my original answer of no, that they shouldn't be. But they should be able to get, I'd probably say about 75%, or have a good chance. Now, part of the reason I'm saying no is just because then we're starting to get down onto a slippery slope with hirelings there. Because if we start getting to the point where hirelings can do everything we need, then what's the point of getting anybody else grouping together, and why do we need this to be an MMO?
Bonnie?
Yeah, these are kind of my points. I mean, I like epic traps.
You can be the troll and argue the other direction and get double points.
I like the risk of dying in traps. I die in them all the time, and I laugh because it's hilarious when you die in a trap. It's hilarious when you don't die in the trap. That's the risk. That's the dance of death that you do when you're doing like the epic elite in-game quest and like running around the halls of haunted halls. That's part of playing. But I also try to be kind of like keep in mind that not everybody plays the way that I play, that there's a wide range of what people are going for, what's important to them and how they play, and to not like try to restrict other people just because I wouldn't use something or I wouldn't do it. I mean, I think that there's lots of sources of XP at epic levels, and that 30% trap bonus is just sprinkles. And maybe it's just fear of dying that like makes people want those hirelings. But yeah, I've heard that DDO is a multi-user game, and that some of those users have rogue or artificer levels, and some of those users might actually have trap monkey skills. So I think if you absolutely positively, don't want to talk to people, and you have to have a rogue, why not make a box account? I have a separate account that I had at one point in time to do traps for me in Shadow Knight. It was dedicated to doing that, and frankly, with the way that hirelings are right now, doing traps, disarming traps is kind of like a hands-on experience. So you're going to have more control, you're going to have more power, more ability to gear, and more chances of success if you make your own rogue to disarm the traps and you don't want to like actually group with other people. And honestly, I would be kind of suspicious of any rogue that was hiring themselves out at epic levels. They should probably be a crime boss, be like Tony Soprano of hirelings or something. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I'm going to give you the win on that one just for that last comment. Just because I like amusement. All right, our last question, and looking at the score sheet, Ecgric is still at 1,000 with Bonnie and Ash tied at 4,000. So, Ecgric, you're out, and this is going to be a tiebreaker for these two, but you get to help me judge. Sound fair?
Well, it's a good thing for me to be out anyway, because I really shouldn't say anything in regards to this because of my lack of experience on the question.
That's okay. So the question is, should raid counters persist through reincarnation? Go.
Me?
Either one.
I am a no. I'm a no. I mean, I try to keep an open mind. But first off, I think it would involve a lot of development to implement that and change how it works, because reincarnations involve your TR cache or pretty much deleting your character record and creating a new one. So I think that's kind of scary. That's dangerous ground. I'm afraid of what might happen if that gets changed and what might be broken and things like that. So it's just very scary ground. But I like the mix of the reincarnation timer resets. I like how true reincarnation and iconic reincarnation give you a clean slate. You're naked on Korthos. It's a fresh start. An epic reincarnation, it's not a fresh start. You're the same person. Maybe you changed your hairstyle, maybe you took elocution lessons, but you're epic you, and that shouldn't reset anything. So I like how there's a combination being able to choose between the two. And persisting raid counters is just a slippery slope for me. I think if you have to flag again for something, you need to reset the counter. And I try to stay like in a mindset that's inclusive to other players and the way they might want to play and what they're looking for. And I recognize that the way I play and my expectations of DDO might be divergent from other players. We're not alike. We don't process information the same way. We don't enjoy the same things. But this just seems like too much of another like easy button or convenience kind of clause. I just want to like throw my hands up and go, like, are you kidding me? Don't reset the time, or like reset the timer every single time. Why do we have to like, you know, not reset the timer? I get all like grumpy old gamer about it. I mean, our raid bypass timer is not enough for people. I mean, when I first hit cap, I had to put off TRing the first time for like 3 months or something so I could get 20 abbots in, so I could try to get a litany. I mean, I had to wait 3 days literally between every run because that was like the old ways. We fought the abbot with sticks and rocks, and we waited 6 hours to fill an LFM. And if we got a 20% bonus XP, we thought it was Christmas. It probably was Christmas, but we have it so easy nowadays, and this is just another thing where people want to have their cake and eat it too. So I try to be accepting of convenience features that other people want, but changing raid counters, I can't get behind it.
Andy?
So I had to start with saying that I personally agree with Bonnie. I put down yes originally, but I don't have a strong feeling. But I don't want to just lose, so I'm going to have to take the opposite side of the argument here. So, well, I get it that, yes, a TR is a TR, and you should start from scratch like everything else. You got to think about a lot of the players who can't get into raids all the time. And they may struggle, and they want to advance their characters, and it can take them 6 months, 3 months, whatever, to get their 20 runs in. And if they have to do that, they're not TRing, they're not helping to support Turbine, they're not helping to fill LFMs at the lower levels, and a lot of the more casual players may only have 1 or 2 characters. So they're stuck there waiting to try to do their 20 runs of Abbot, which, because they're on a server that doesn't have a lot of support for Abbot, they're waiting months in between trying to get that. And it just makes the game unfun for them. Unfun for them, less players, less revenue, less people for us to play with. The other one is you know, the having the 20 runs at any point is an accomplishment in itself. Whether you do it before a TR or after a TR really shouldn't matter. I mean, there's no special genie at the end of 20 runs that gives it to you because you did it that life. Turbine's giving you 20 runs because they feel bad for it. They go, hey, we're sorry, the random generator sucked and you didn't get the loot you wanted. Here's a chance at something after doing it 20 times. So that's why I think it should persist, why it's critical persist, and at the end of the day, think of the children.
I don't know. I think if you're doing it old school and if you're waiting 3 days between every raid and there's a struggle to like get to that 20 because you only have 1 or 2 characters and you're a casual player, I think where there's a will, there's a way. There are so many raids in this game that you could rotate them fine. I mean, it's the way that we always used to play. We would like rotate through the raids, and it would usually take 3 days, you know, unless you're playing all the time, and get through them. And I think one thing that doing the Shroudpalooza taught me was if there's a will, there is a way. If you go out there and you come up with this plan for, hey, I'd really like to try to get this done. Who around here might want to help me or like make this like a joint, like a community kind of goal? And if you start talking to people about it in that way, you can get it done. So I think it's just getting rid of the, you know, not resetting the raid count timer is just another way to give people, you know, an out from like really working for a goal and hitting those milestones where they're having to like work with other people and really kind of get involved in the community. I think it's just another kind of nail in that coffin.
All right, let me go this way. How does what do you think about raid timers? Do you, raid bypass timers in relationship to this? Do you think how do you think that interacts with what your answer is here?
I think raid timers divide between the haves and the have-nots, which isn't always fair. But here again, anybody can buy raid bypass timers. That would maybe be a good thing to have on the Mysterious Remnant turn-in list to be able to get raid bypass timers. Then again, I think you can still buy them for plat from people if you find somebody who wants to sell them off. So here again, if you really absolutely have to crunch it, you could probably get a hold of some raid bypass timers one way or the other. But I think it did make it totally easy to get to that 20. It's like somebody just decides that they're going to do 20, and it takes them like one night of focused repetition, and they could potentially do it. So it's kind of like, here again, do you have people willing to play with you? You know, have you met contacts? You know, do you have a network of players that will play with you? And once you have that, then I think, you know, the world is your oyster.
Andy?
So raid bypass timers, it plays a role in this question, but my personal view on them is, to an extent, they were a good thing because they prevented me from I forgot to turn the quest in and now I can't play with my friends. So using them once or twice is great. I don't like the ubiquitous of it or how many you can use at one time, where you can run. I'm going to run 20 runs on normal because I don't want to have a challenge. I don't want to try anything harder. Back, all it does is it burns through our content very quickly. Back when it was 3 days in between raids, and that's what you had to do, we had multiple characters. And we had to run different kinds of characters, different types, with our friends, with our guildies. People rotated when you're playing the cleric, when you're playing the DPS tune, when you're playing whatever. A lot of that's been lost. I will say, though, however, with raid bypass timers around the corner, I mean, for the price of a 12-pack of soda, you can run a raid 20 times and be done, depending you buy your points on sale and stuff like that. So it makes it easier, but not everybody wants to spend that kind of money in the game. Not everybody has access to the raid bypass timers or plat cap tunes that can buy them off the auction house. So if we're looking at raid counters persisting through TRs, we're really looking at the have-nots in this case. The haves are going to be able to do 20 runs before a TR without thinking about it. It's the have-nots we have to think about, the people who are most vulnerable to getting to that 20 run, and the people who also are going to be most thrilled that first time they hit 20th list and they get that piece of loot they worked so hard for.
See, I think I had that, but I do have that experience. It's just I have to do it before I TR. And I admit that there's some good points here about raid bypass timers. Like, it does contribute to content getting worn out way too quickly. I really wish there was some kind of cap in how many of those could be used at any one setting or anyone sitting, anyone played, per day, to kind of enforce that. Yeah, sometimes you forget to turn in the raid and get your reward, and you've screwed yourself out of doing the next run with your fellow guild members or with people on the server in this run that you set up. But it's convenient for that, and I think it's kind of been blown out of proportion for how much you can use them and just kind of pound out repetitions.
All right, Ecgric, what do you think about the arguments here?
Personally, I think I'd have to lean more towards what Bonnie's saying. A lot of Andy's arguments pretty good, but one of the things he's kind of concentrating, sounds, on the have-nots needing this, and the casual players needing this. And I mean, I've always looked at raids as the raids are more for the elite players, not the casual players. So if the raids themselves are intended for the elite players, then why would this be a concern for the casual players? I mean, I don't know. I'm not paying attention too much to who's asking for this. Is it the casual players or is it the elite ones that are? I mean, I think this is more a question that the power gamers are wanting this. So I got to lean more towards Bonnie.
This is tough. There's some really good arguments, man. Oh, that's tough. I really like Andy, what you were talking about with like getting new players, that other generation, more people getting into the raids, and that's kind of a personal thing of mine. So I really my personal bias really wants to lean kind of in that direction. I think Bonnie has some really great points about, do we really want to touch this? Is that going to break things? We saw with the when they changed to have heroic and epic counters be two different counting systems, and not only did that mess things up, but the fix to that was messed up. So I think there's some good points there. I'm going to go with Bonnie on this one. Fantastic arguments. Thank you guys very much for DDO Debates. We have some new stuff to talk about, but as we wrap up the DDO Debates, thank you very much, guys, for participating and being passionate and really just fantastic arguments. I think a lot of these could have gone one way or the other, depending on if you had a more competent judge or moderator. But and we cruised through some of them pretty fast. But great arguments. Thank you very much for that. If you listeners, if you have things that you want to hear us debate, send us an email at DDOCast at gmail.com or Twitter at DDOCast. Ping us there. Or wherever you see this episode, you can leave a comment, or any of our other episodes. Give us more stuff to debate. I've got a pretty good list of questions, but more questions. We want to debate what you guys want to hear us debate about. With that, let's talk about game news. And we'll start with the Players' Council for 2015. They have emailed applicants who have been accepted. So check your email, particularly your spam folder. And I will say, too, I do know at least one person that didn't apply herself that was selected. So maybe even if you didn't send in an application, check your email and stuff like that. So just kind of be aware of that. And good luck. Andy, you got any advice on that?
Don't take it personal when your ideas aren't listened to fully. But overall, it's a good experience. The devs are listening to a lot of things. You get some early chance for feedback. Just make sure, don't take things too personally, and try to work together. Jerry gives a little bit more freedom in there to debate, to think, to talk back and forth, so things get a little bit relaxed. Don't abuse that. We had some problems last year, and it took away from the conversation. So use the freedom you're given, give some great feedback, and good luck.
There was a little bit of information on intended champion design. Basically, to kind of summarize, they wanted to create a bit of versatility, surprise. To quote, they said, with a champions, there's a chance that you'll encounter an enemy that breaks the repetition cycle of a quest. Characters who do invest in being versatile will have more tools to deal with them. A fire source for hitting a fire system champion is the classic example of this. Previously, points spent on versatility that did not boost your fire damage were essentially wasted, and players ignored content that had the possibility of fire-resistant enemies. Now you have to consider the possibility of fire-resistant enemies and such. And I always support not having one-trick ponies. If you listen to any of our build discussions, I am not a one-trick pony fan. Let's see. Hand wraps. And feel free, guys, to jump in here if you have any comments on any of this stuff, too. For hand wrap, Sev jumped into a completely unrelated discussion thread and said that they've been discussing changing the implementation of hand wraps so that even though they look the same behind the scenes in the code, they are real weapons like everything else. They currently use a different classification, which makes them a special snowflake. That would mean all those broken enhancements that need to have custom scripting to work with hand wrap should just work. Of course, then all the stuff that's custom scripted to work with only hand wraps would break, but those are the things that keep the job interesting. I don't know if either of you have any comments.
No, in general, it's about time, but I'm very fearful that we're not going to have monks be usable for 2 or 3 updates when they fix it. But in the long run, I guess it's a good thing.
It's like toying with the raid countdown. The raid counter. It's kind of like a scary ground they're going to tread on there, but it is kind of about time.
Let's see. Mysterious Remnants rewards. So this is a post by the devs. They are looking at adding some additional reward options in the future for Mysterious Remnants available to the existing vendor in the Hall of Heroes. There's 2 broad categories of rewards. Standard rewards that are available all the time and, quote, festival rewards that are turned on for shorter periods of time, often 1 weekend, maybe a week. The first list is fairly long, and I redacted it, and I'm not going to read out every argument that is there. But they want to hear what you think of the rewards and the general reward structure. So if you have comments on this, go on the forums and participate in that. The new standard rewards. It's basically a series of augments that mostly exist in some form of DDO already. These aren't always, quote, easily available, and they felt augments were a good solution to providing items that are usable by a lot of players. They recognize that some players that want to target may go through different routes, and that's okay. Basically, what they're adding is augments that are fairly readily available. I don't remember. Do you remember if skill augments were on that list, Ash?
They were not. That was a big omission.
So we will see that later. basically, ability score augments. Oh, here's the list. Ability score augments, elemental on hit damage, spell power augments, saving throw augments, the PRR, MRR augments, and energy resistance augments. The festival ones, somewhat similar to Eternal Flask and Carnal Fire, they would be turned on for a limited time. Basically, they're more powerful versions of the standard reward augments, as well as a Mysterious Cloak and Mysterious Bracers. So the augmented, or the better augments are basically the upgrade of the augments that were listed. Those augments that they are adding standardly are basically the 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 ones. The festival ones will be the 24, 28. They're also adding, looking at adding a cloak and a bracer that have the same stuff. They're going to be bound to account. They get there's a minimum level 7, 14, and 21. They get a 15, 30, 45 positive healing amplification. A 11, 18, 25 MRR bonus, which I believe stacks with. I'm not sure if that stacks with the PRR augments or not. And then they get. They all get green, and yellow augment slots and Masterful Craftsmanship 4, so you can add a little bit of stuff on there as well. Any thoughts on that new stuff that you didn't already share?
I think the heroic level items are much more attractive than the epic level items, and I'm wondering if they're going to cost the same amount of fragments. That could get pretty expensive. These are all like 10K items. And especially if those are festival related, then that's just kind of weird. You gotta save up and hope that you have enough at the time, I guess. So it's not something I'm willing to farm.
Yeah, same here. I'm a fairly active player. I don't have 10,000 fragments across all my tunes. It's kind of a silly number to put out a festival event only.
Yeah, I've been TRing since they came out, and I mean, I haven't been farming things like haunted halls for remnants, fragments, whatever they're called. But I've been doing bravery bonus, heroic leveling, and I don't have anywhere close to 10,000.
10,000's a lot. I'd like to see some more intermediate. I thought it was actually fine for the Eternal Flasks and whatnot, and I liked it when they released that. It was kind of like, hey, here's some stuff that you can see. We're not really expecting everyone to get this right now. Expecting most people not to get this right now. A few people did, which was great. And you could do things too, like run with friends, and if you get them in the chest, say, hey, can you toss me yours? I think they're tradable. I assume they're tradable. I haven't tried.
You can pass them in chests,
like them. Yeah. So there's stuff you can do like that as well. But I would like to see a little bit more, because basically right now we have, they cost like 30 to 100 for the potions, and then it's like the 10,000. There's like nothing in between.
Yeah.
So we kind of need some stuff in between there for sure.
Graduated levels, but I could see like the level 7 bracers maybe. Maybe even cloak. I have to think about what I actually have to use that are alternatives. That's kind of sexy for leveling up a character, I guess. But for epic stuff, I just wouldn't use it. I think there's too many other things that I would want to wear, even for those boosts.
It does say that the Commodus bonus hasn't been used in MRR before, so it would stack with everything made, which is nice for MRR.
And thank goodness, like Arcanes will be able to get MRR from somewhere. I don't understand that totally, but now, your wizard can have MRR and not have to wear armor. So that's kind of cool.
Doesn't everybody wear heavy armor these days? But yes.
I guess.
I don't.
Old school.
But, oops, I think Andy or Ash disengaged from the call. He was trying to move his mic. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Mysterious Remnants are kind of a tricky thing. I kind of like where they're going. I think for me, kind of the one thing I'd really like to see is, and this is kind of probably a crazy thought, I was thinking it'd be kind of neat if they threw remnants into raid chests. So if you got maybe 1d20 or 1d10 remnants per level of the raid, as kind of an incentive to get people to run raids a little more.
Or treat them like epic fragments in some of those epic quests.
Well, so there's a little bit of trick there, because if you don't want it to just be epic content related stuff. You want to keep it as stuff that you can get from level 1 to 28. and it kind of depends more on the rewards than actually getting them. But I was thinking maybe if you could get a pile, some of the epic raids, if you were getting 24 D10 or D20 Mysterious Remnants, that's a pretty sizable chunk. It might be an incentive to run the raids a little bit more and get kind of breathe some life into raids with a fairly easy stroke, I thought. As far as rewards go, I didn't show this earlier when we were talking about some of the stuff, but I like the idea of having augments, although I'd kind of prefer them to fix the costs in the Temple of the 12 for some of those than just add them in here. So, I don't know. I want to see a lot of course, Lesser Hearts was one that I mentioned earlier that I'd like to see somewhere in game. And I don't care if it's 10,000 remnants for a Lesser Heart, 15 for up to 15,000 or 20,000 for a Lesser plus 5. I'm okay with that.
And I almost wish that they would just keep adding to the list rather than seasonally replacing stuff. Because I think, so many people have different choices in what they prefer, what they're looking for, what appeals to them, that the shorter the list is, the less I think it's going to satisfy people, especially if they switch things out over time. I mean, sure, there's like ennui that could set in with like what's available, but I like a long list of choices.
I'd be okay with like a different set of, if they had a really long list of things that they could put in, and every weekend we got a different list.
If they rotated them or something, I don't know.
Yeah, rotate would be required. It would really suck to have an item that you're really looking forward to. You're just short of it by the end of the weekend, and you never see it again.
Yeah.
That was the rotate.
Suck.
And I don't think they're talking about doing that. Like, here it is for one time only. Nothing I've seen says that that's going to happen. It all seems to be that these things will rotate. And I think I also think it'd be fun, like when different festivals, like actual festivals and events come out, like whatever the new Maybar is, or from the other ones, but like the throwing head cosmetic-y stuff would be great additions to these, I think. Because cosmetics are a good choice, anyways. Pets are, of course, a great way, but stuff that ties into some of that you can get from the festival rewards. If you get some of that other stuff, maybe a little more frequently, might be kind of a fun little generating thing as well. Moving on, some notes on some bugs. Regarding charms, on rare occasion, a charmed monster will maintain player aggro and be able to hurt the player, but cannot be targeted or de-charmed by the player. So if this does happen to you, the devs are asking that you file a bug report, including where it happens, what monsters were involved, and who the character was doing the charming, including feats, enhancements, destinies, twists, items, etc. Sounds like it's pretty rare. Be a little unfortunate, so just watch out for that. The Vanguard, Paladin Vanguard speed bonus is lost on death. As a temporary workaround, if you unequip and then re-equip your shield after you die, or even just switch shields, it should put the bonus back. So that's if you find that you die and you lose your attack speed bonus from being in Vanguard, that's an option.
It's not just death. It happens all the time. I actually have I have a green steel quarterstaff I use for displacement that's on a hotkey. So I can swap on and off whenever I see my attack speed slow down for my Vanguard. So it's not just death. It happens constantly.
I think they are working on it, but just there you go. It's better than logging out, at least. You can switch stuff, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. The Bulwark of Defense epic feat should work with Stalwart and Sacred Defender lines. It's not. It should be updated in the next patch or update 25, which has the secondary effect of saying, hey, we might have a patch before update 25. That could be fun. All right. Bonus days. We love DDO. Through tomorrow, February 16th, you can get plus 20% heroic XP, plus 5% VIP XP, double Mysterious Remnant champions. Champions have twice the chance to drop remnants. They considered doubling the amount of remnants given, but that required more technical work and would have taken much longer to implement. While they do see that there's value in larger drops rather than more drops, there are some advantages to both methods, so they went with the one that was faster to do, which is, at least for me, perfectly acceptable. I have definitely noticed I'm getting more remnants, that's for sure. Store news. You can get double bonus points through February 22nd. Yeehaw. These sales through February 19th. 20% off adventure packs and quest XP. You can get a free Lesser Slayer count boost. Just one of those with the code SLAY13, SLAY 13, one per account, which is always a fun one. Let's see. I've been using those a lot more in Epic content, actually. Some of the Thunderholm and Orchard in particular, you get a lot of XP out of those Slayers. Community news. The 129th Chronicle. LSD37 is working on a light version of the DDO character builder, which we will link to in the show notes. I got a shout out for my permadeath feed, which I'll talk about in a minute. The High Lords of Malkir were hosting a Caught in the Web teaching raid yesterday. So if you're interested in catching some of their teaching raids, follow them along on the forums. The guild Deadly Heal is a Portuguese-only guild on Orion with characters from all levels. The guild is looking for other Portuguese players to join them. So it's kind of fun when you hear about guilds from other countries. The comment for the week, and we will start with Bonnie for this. Why do mind flayers make terrible chefs?
I got nothing. I got nothing.
Because they like their brains raw. Not much cooking needed.
Not bad. I'm going with too many cooks in the kitchen because they've absorbed so much cooking information they get befuddled about which recipe they're actually trying to follow. Let's see. Fansite news. We got a shout out for last DDOcast. The Damsel DDO had episode 7. DDO Players News had episode 19. DDO Gamer was making the case for gnomes in a new blog post. Had his nice general brand of humor in there. Your DDO is streaming on Twitch, and Enrique looked at Mummy Guardians in a post. This is the final weekend for the Ice Games and Winter Festival. Turn your stuff in tomorrow, Monday, if you're listening to this live. Varguilla is seeking feedback for some possible future Remnants rewards. Yeah, we should mention that the stuff we were talking about with the Remnants rewards, that's not a for sure thing. That's what they're looking at doing. Make sure I'm clear on that. They are giving away Turbine Points on Twitter. If you can follow them, to keep an eye out for Tuesday Turbine Point giveaways. You usually ask a question and pick 10 people who answer. And as also kind of around in the internet, the Dungeons & Dragons had themed Valentines from Wizards of the Coast, so you can check that out as well. And let's see, there was also another cocktail hour this week that had Bonnie on as well. Did you have fun, Bonnie?
It was fun. It was really impromptu. Like, yeah, they got me in the van, and surprise, it was a DDO cocktail hour. But it was a lot of fun.
They abducted you into the van of cocktail hour?
Well, the servers were down, so it was a great way to spend the downtime.
It is. They are a hoot, that is for sure. DDOcast news. We have a name for. I don't remember if I had the name last week or not. But I am doing Twitch now with Permadeath, with Lessa for the most part, and hopefully some other folks with the Sublime Permadeath Guild on Thelanis. We're calling it DDO Kasplat, which was courtesy of Samus Garobo, which is a pretty darn good name. So you can catch us on Twitch for that. We will probably do a special episode of that tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter, which is kind of the only place I'm going to be broadcasting that specifically. But there's also opportunities to win Turbine Points here. If you send me screenshots of Soulstones and I used yours for a cover title page for a video, you can win 500 points there. Also, if you predict which quest I die in, I will give you 500 Turbine Points. And there will be, I haven't really kind of fully announced that and put up a forum for where you can do that, but be on the lookout for that. I'll put that up soon, hopefully tomorrow morning. And there'll be a place where you can go and predict which quest I will die in, and if you pick the right one, I will roll from the people who selected the correct quest and send someone a 500 Turbine Point code. So that's what's going on there. Lightning post this week regarding Remnants farms. Cantuch on Twitter mentioned Litany on the Vol side. There's a lot of orange names there. I also wanted to mention Devil's Assault is a good place to do that as well. I don't know, do you guys have any recommendations if you want to farm for Remnants and where to go?
Shadow Crypt and the infight of Bring Me the Head of Golophan, because all those guards have like orangey red names and a lot of them have crowns.
Yeah, any place with lots of respawns. So you think haunted halls, you can think cold chamber, a few other ones that are out there, but looking to farm, stand somewhere where there's infinite respawning mobs, and swing away until your fingers sore.
Especially if you get orange name respawns. Although I did notice, I was somewhat disappointed. We ran Epic Elite breaking the ranks, and we only got 2 remnant coins out of the whole thing. I was rather impressed. Yeah, even someone who runs it a lot more frequently was quite amazed at how poorly we did there. Axel wrote in, he said, good episode. He really enjoys the podcast. He runs one of those YouTube exclusive DDO podcasts we mentioned. He's been going since the past October. He's up to 45 videos. I took a look. It's kind of a variety of videos from guides to commentaries. If we'll link to that in our show notes as well. So you can go check his channel out. We also got an email from Shane. He said, my character is Stonefeet on Thelanis. He heard the show last week. We were talking about lag in the game. One thing that came to mind is that the old style of ship, you were able to put a bank and tower and stuff on the upper deck. So he was asking, do we think that having to basically log onto the ship and then log onto lower decks, do we think that that is causing lag, essentially? And do we think that a new style of ship where everything was on the upper deck would be less laggy? Any thoughts?
I would mind having the stuff that's in the cargo hold be on the upper deck. The upper deck is awfully naked and bare on my ship. I miss it, but I don't know if that's really like the lag. Isn't it all instance-based, or is that a myth?
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting theory. I don't really know enough about the code or code in general to really be able to answer that, I think.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it'd be nice to have something on the top deck, but I don't think it's going to solve our lag problem. There's so many different types of lag, and so many different causes of it. This is a nice to have, and if it's actually causing some lag, I think it's probably a pretty small amount and contributor to the whole problem. So, I don't know. I think if we're trying to solve lag, there's better ways that does spend their time, but that's for their call.
Well, hopefully they give lag a nice good kick in the pants and get some good headway. I know that they're working really hard on that as well. So with that, give you guys a chance. Ecgric had to go, but thanks Ecgric for being on the show. I really appreciate that. Bonnie, why don't you plug some of the stuff that you're doing these days?
Well, the main thing that I want to plug is on Wayfinder on February 28th, that's Saturday, February 28th, in the afternoon, starting around 3 p.m. I'm going to host a series of raids. So if you play on Wayfinder, or you want to just like roll up an iconic and flag some tunes, I'm going to be doing a variety of raid content that's kind of in the range from level 15 to 25. So come out and join me on February 28th. Let's have a good time.
You know, it could be an interesting thing to add to the store or a reward somewhere is an item that lets you run the raid once without having it flagged. It could be kind of interesting.
Just once.
Thing. Yeah, just once. So like if you weren't really sure you wanted to run, like buy the content or run the content, you're kind of on the fence about it. It lets you kind of preview the raid almost. I mean, if you want to keep buying it and go, then you can generate a lot of money for Turbine that way.
That might be a make or break. Like if you're choosing whether or not you're going to buy a pack.
Yeah,
check out the raid.
I just kind of thought of it, so I have no idea where that's going. But Andy, do you want to, or Ash, do you want to plug anything before we head out here?
No real plugs. Those that know me, I'm sure I'll see you guys in game soon. So have fun.
So thanks, guys. I really appreciate you being on the show. I thought it was a good debate. I had some great arguments there, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. Thanks for listening to the show, and thanks for other contributors to DDOCast. We got a nice sizable pool of guests, which is awesome. I hope the guests don't feel bad about not being on the show as often. Thanks to Turbine and Wizards, and thanks to Stradivarius for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, our calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you want to be part of the show or just say hi, you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for other updates. If you have questions you want to ask us, you want us to answer, you have things you want us to debate, if you have ideas for topics, leave a comment, send me an email, whatever you like to get a hold of me. Really appreciate getting that kind of stuff. I will mention, too, that I'm working on getting the next Guild feud out and started. So, with that, a closing tip for the week, always be willing to help other players. You never know when you might need their help, which I think that's what really makes the world grow on DDO, is helping each other. So with that, until next time, all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to watch DDO Splat on Twitch. Thanks for listening.